Hi Mercy Commons, it's Nick here. Welcome to our first virtual meeting. Wow, things change not only day by day, but hour by hour. We were planning this to be experienced in home gatherings, and now we can't even meet in home gatherings, so we're doing virtual gatherings. The irony is that the devices that usually keep us so disconnected from each other are the same devices that we are using to remain connected during this time. It's been kind of surreal because I feel disconnected from my Mercy Commons family, yet at the same time I feel so connected to the Church of Jesus Christ around the world. I've been talking with pastors and leaders around the world that are all trying to lead their communities of faith in a way that encourages and inspires. I've had the opportunity to pray with and talk to various pastors, and I've also had the joy of them praying for us. And so Mercy Commons know that around the world and around the nation, people are praying for us as we are for them. Amanda's drawing is just a fresh reminder of what it means during these times, that even though we are absent in person, we are together in spirit. And we need to understand that even though some of these environments feel a little clunky to us, certainly not my favorite, the reality is that in a mysterious way, we are all connected by one spirit. Ephesians 4 verses 4 to 6 reminds us of this, where it says, "There is one body and one spirit, just as you were called in one hope of your calling, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is above all and through all and in you all." Well done. Well done, life group leaders that have stepped up amazingly well and have shouldered a burden that they certainly didn't sign up for at the beginning of the year. I want to encourage you as being part of Mercy Commons, especially during this time, is going to mean that most of what we do is going to be done through our life group. And so if you're not in a life group, please contact us so that we can ensure that you're remaining connected and cared for and stirred on mission during these times. Your flexibility and faith and commitment, well done. For the way in which you've helped each other and the way in which you've prayed for one another, the way in which you've met material needs of one another, thank you so much for that. Thank you for praying for us as a leadership team. We covet your prayers. We need those things. I'm so confronted by my weaknesses and my sin during this time. And it's been a difficult time for me. I feel a little bit like the shirt I'm wearing, dry and prickly. It's been a long 4 days stuck in the house with all the people that are wanting the same internet. Also, 4 days of rain has not helped. So let's be praying for one another that we maintain our sanity and our sense of humor. I also want to remind you to continue to guard your heart. I want you to set some time aside to intentionally pray. Now, it's great to pray when someone comes to mind or to be thinking or watching something or hearing something and praying, but I want to encourage you to set some time intentionally for prayer. Set some time aside intentionally for meditation, and to be careful what you read and what you give your attention to. Brett McCracken has an amazing article called The Wisdom Pyramid. And just like the food pyramid, the bottom of the pyramid is the kinds of foods that we should be consuming a lot of, and the top of the pyramid are the foods we should not be consuming that much of. And what he's done is he's put together a wisdom pyramid that says the bottom and the foundation is the Word of God, and the top and the things we should be consuming the least amount of are social media right now at this time. So please check it out. The link will be on this page. I also want to encourage you by rereading the psalm that we shared for our prayer and meditation last week. Psalm 131 says, "O Lord, my heart is not lifted up, my eyes are not raised too high. I do not occupy myself with things too great and too marvelous for me." And I have to say, Mercy Commons, I did not do that well this week. I occupied myself with things too great and too marvelous for me. I got into the minutiae of what was going on, and it was not helpful for me. But I have calmed and quietened my soul. Like a weaned child with its mother, like a weaned child is my soul within me. O Israel, hope in the Lord from this time forth and evermore. As a reminder, last week we covered Acts 27 and 28 in our series on navigating crisis, and we talked about three things. We talked about the fact that God is sovereign in the midst of crisis. We talked about the fact that wisdom does not preclude faith, and that often that crisis can lead to gospel growth. And this week, I just want to remind you of three things: that we have a purpose, that we have a captain, and that we have an anchor. Now, as I was thinking about this nautical imagery, I was thinking to myself, no one builds a ship just for the purpose of enduring a storm. No one comes together and designs a ship and says, this ship will be great at dealing with storms. We build ships or boats for the purpose of travel or trade or pleasure or a combination of those things. And church is like that. We have a collective identity and we have a commission. We have a purpose. Last year during Lent, we were actually going through a series on what it means to become Mercy Commons. And this is a scripture that is key to our identity, our collective identity as a faith community. It is 1 Peter 2, verses 9 to 12. But you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a peculiar or special or prized people for his own possession, that you may proclaim the excellencies of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. Once you were not a people, but now you are God's people. Once you had not received mercy, but now you have received mercy. Beloved, I urge you as sojourners and exiles to abstain from the passions of the flesh which war against your soul. Keep your conduct among the Gentiles honorable, so that when they speak against you as evildoers, they may see your good deeds and glorify God in the day of the visitation. Now, church, our purpose is not just to survive. We are to revel in the mercies of God. We are his own special possession. We are to proclaim the excellencies of him who called us out of darkness into his marvelous light. This is a time for us to demonstrate by the way in which we live, by the way in which we abstain from the passions of the flesh. Don't worry about that. Grace knocked something over. By the way we abstain from passions of the flesh, that the way in which we either participate or don't in the spirit of this age, the way that we do things or don't do things, we demonstrate to people something of what life in the spirit looks like. And then we participate in acts of mercy for the common good. The decisions we make now for the benefit of others, that they may see our good works and glorify God in the day of our visitation. And there's a couple of practical things that we're going to institute in order to remind ourselves that we, even though we have a collective identity, also have a collective purpose. The first is going to be kind of Instagram contact points. And I never thought I would say that. But on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we're going to have different leaders just do a 1 or 2 minute devotional about what God is teaching them and how we can kind of remain connected and on mission. We're also going to be instituting what we're calling Zoom prayer meetings. And we will have 2 meetings on a Tuesday and 2 meetings on a Thursday where people can log in and we can pray for each other, for our nation, for the world, and for this crisis. We also have our How Can I Help list and I Need Help list. That's already on the website, and Grace will be posting more about that. And this is new. We reached out to the YMCA and we got a list of men and women that are over 65. And what we were going to do was we were going to serve them with either deliveries or just spending time with them. We can't do that now, but what we can do is we can call them, ask them if they need prayer, if they want someone to talk to, and more information will be disseminated through your life groups. We also want to hear from you about ideas that you have, how to love your city and your neighborhood during this time. We are not just sitting here surviving the storm. We are here offering hope and joy and reminding people who is in charge and who is in control. This is how we continue to be the church. Now, in all of this nautical imagery, the thing that grabbed me the most was the idea that we have an anchor. In modern English, I say, if I hope, I'm optimistic, but I'm not absolutely certain about something. I hope my internet doesn't go out. I hope there's toilet paper when I go to the store. However, in the New Testament, hope is never a hesitant, uncertain optimism. It means a sure, confident expectation. Our hope rests on Jesus, and he is currently alive and with us in the midst of this. Hebrews 6, verse 13 to 19 says this, so that by 2 unchangeable things, in which it is impossible for God to lie, we who have fled for refuge might have strong encouragement to hold fast to the hope set before us. Why? We have this as a sure and steadfast anchor of our soul, a hope that enters the inner place behind the curtain. Now, as we've gone through our Genesis series, we've seen two things. We've seen the two immutable or unchangeable realities are this: the character of God and the promise of God. Interestingly enough, those two little pointy things on the bottom of an anchor are called crowns. It's the crown, the shaft, and the eye hole. And the two crowns are the nature of God, who He is, because He cannot deny Himself, and the promises that He's made to us as His people. Now, the problem is if you throw an anchor over a boat, it takes a while for that anchor to grab hold on the bottom of the sea. And what we do is we panic. It's not grabbing hold. The ship is still moving. We're still drifting in that direction. We pull the anchor up or throw something else or try something or row something. No, my encouragement to you is this: throw down the anchor of your hope, which is Christ Jesus. Throw that anchor down and allow the ship to slow and calm in wind-tossed waters. No matter the storm, no matter how long it lasts, Christ is our anchor. He will hold us fast. We have a captain. And when a ship encounters stormy waters, yes, we look around and see, is it rusty? Is it broken? Can I trust this ship? But more importantly, we look at the captain. We look at whether he's qualified, whether he's stressed, whether he's afraid, whether there's a sense in which he knows what he's doing and where he's headed. A lot of people shout a lot of different things during a time of turmoil in the middle of a storm. But our gaze and our attention has to be focused on Jesus. Again, we look at the writer of Hebrews in chapter 2, verse 9, and he says this: "But we see Jesus, who was made a little lower than the angels, for the suffering of death, crowned with glory and honor, that he by the grace of God might taste death for everyone. For it was fitting for him, for whom are all things, and by whom are all things, in bringing many sons to glory, to make him the captain of their salvation, perfect through suffering. For both he who sanctifies, which is Jesus, and those who are being sanctified, which is us, are all of one, for which reason he is not ashamed to call them brethren." Jesus Christ calls us brothers. Jesus Christ is our anchor. Jesus Christ is the captain of my salvation, the captain of the ship, even though it feels like it is being tossed to and fro. Is Jesus the captain of your soul? The gift of this virus is that people are asking that question, whether they're Christ followers, whether they're skeptics, or whether they're seekers. Who is the captain of your soul? Who is in charge of your life? You know, I'll be honest, I've missed the fact that there's no sport on TV, and so I've been thinking about that a lot, probably more than I should have. But one of the things that I thought about was the movie Invictus, the rugby movie. Some of you have seen it, but Invictus was a poem that Nelson Mandela would read often when he was incarcerated in Robben Island for those 27 years. And in the movie, he gave this poem to the captain of the South African rugby team as kind of like a pep talk. Now you go for it. You're in charge of your destiny. William Ernest Henley wrote the poem Invictus, and here it is. "Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how strait the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul." Now let's be real, right? Something stirs in us when we hear that, especially a line like, "Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody but unbowed." As Americans, we like this idea that hard work and grit and determination and a high pain tolerance is all you need to succeed. You are the one that defines your success. You are the one that defends your future. Well, now what? Are you really the captain of your soul? You can't even buy toilet paper. You can't even sit in a coffee shop with your friend and order a latte. The truth is, Invictus is the polar opposite of what Jesus has taught us. And there are only two destinations that you will get to if you want to be the captain of your soul. The first is the port of pride. You will set and perhaps achieve some of your selfish dreams, and you'll be unable or unwilling to see your weaknesses and your flaws. You'll say that if people worked as hard as you, they could succeed. And you'll see everyone around you as a hurdle to achieving your goals or as a useful tool to help you self-actualize. You won't look at people as someone to love or invite or listen to. And the war cry of your life will be fortitude. The second place that we go to if we're the captain of our own souls is the dock of despair. You will be crushed under the weight of your own failures. You'll realize that you're not what you're cracked up to be or what people thought you would be, and that your life is totally out of control. Why bother? Fatalism is the cry of the dock of despair. Now, Jesus Christ railed against people that were self-righteous and self-sufficient. And Jesus Christ promised us grace and mercy for those that are failing at life. But we need to ask. So often Jesus would come to a blind person, a deaf person, and says, what is it that you want? Because it's in the expression of our need that we humble ourselves and say, I don't have what I need. Jesus, I need it in this time. There is a level of grace and mercy and empowerment that is available to us if we accept that we are not the masters of our fate, that we are not the captains of our soul. Jesus said that he hasn't come for healthy people. He's come for those that are sick. And boy, does that put this in a new lens right now with this virus. He hasn't come to call those that think they're righteous, but those that know that they need help. Those words have new meaning, and we're all infected with a virus of sin, and Jesus Christ has the answer for that. He came for the very purpose of helping people who knew their weaknesses and know how weak internal strength really is. With Christ as our captain, with Christ as our anchor, we can be guarded, we can be guided into the harbor of hope. Dorothea Day wrote a poem in direct opposition to Invictus, and this is how I'd like to end. Out of the light that dazzles me, bright as the sun from pole to pole, I thank the God I know to be for Christ, the conqueror of my soul. Since his the sway of circumstance, I would not wince nor cry aloud. Under the rule which men call chance, my head with joy is humbly bowed. Beyond this place of sin and tears, that life with him and his the aid, that in spite the menace of the years keeps and will keep me unafraid. I have no fear, though strait the gate, he cleared from punishment the scroll. Christ is the master of my fate. Christ is the captain of my soul.
Those he saves are his delight. Christ will hold me fast. Precious in his holy sight.